At the scene not far from the fourth stop, which is less than an hour's journey from Burke, Julie and her night order arrived. A security department officer briefed them, his breath visible in the frigid air as he explained that during the first attack, Professor Deculein had secured the train and rescued survivors alongside Sir Varen. But when the second assault happened, the entire carriage had gone over the cliff, taking Sir Varen with it. Only the VIP carriage, where Professor Deculein had been, remained intact. Julie acknowledged his report with a nod, and then the officer showed them a copy of Rowan's photograph, mentioning that the area was so remote that the only eyewitnesses were those directly involved. He asked if they had seen the article. Julie confirmed that she had seen it, including the image of Deculein sitting calmly inside the suspended train. The officer then revealed that not all photos had been released, as he produced another image, this one showing the corpses of the knights who had attacked the train. He speculated that the head professor might have subdued them, remarking that Deculein was practically a one-man army. When the knights remained silent, the officer quickly composed himself and reiterated that based on the evidence, it appeared Deculein and Varen had tried to handle the situation, and Varen had met with misfortune during the second attack. Julie thanked him before turning away, her gaze sweeping across the desolate snow-covered landscape stretching endlessly in white. The silence, so deep, it seemed to hum in her ears. Though she had believed herself hardened to loss, her thoughts kept returning to Varen. His life cut short, his relentless determination to rise from nothing, his dreams extinguished here in this cold wasteland. One of her knights asked if Varen had left anything behind, and the officer admitted there was nothing. When another inquired about the attackers, the officer stated that officially no one would be held accountable, as incidents on the journey to Berchtesgaden were often overlooked, and with Varen as the only casualty, the higher-ups wouldn't authorize an investigation. Julie stepped forward, her boots crunching in the snow until she stood at the cliff's edge, the wind cutting through her, carrying the scent of ice and pine. Below, the ravine stretched into obscurity, its depths hidden by shifting fog. Somewhere in that abyss lay her comrade. She murmured to herself that he had lived diligently and died as an escort, tears welling in her eyes as the snow continued to fall, then whispered, "Fool." The mansion doors had barely closed behind Deculein when Uriel's furious voice cut through the air like a whip as she stormed toward him. The butler followed anxiously, his usual composure visibly strained. Uriel accused Deculein of writing another family check, demanding to know if he had forgotten her warnings. She shouted that their finances couldn't sustain such spending and that they wouldn't last 2 more months at this rate, calling him an idiot. Deculein's expression darkened as he realized the wand's commission had exceeded projections. Issuing checks had been a miscalculation, but the dire state of Yukline's finances surprised even him. Cutting through her outburst with cold precision, he told her to calm herself and assured her he had a way to secure more funds. Uriel, still seething, demanded to know what he meant. Deculein led them to the auction items, arranged meticulously in rows, their gilded surfaces gleaming faintly. Uriel scoffed, accusing him of admiring his purchases she believed were nothing but displays of ego. He warned her to be quiet and reminded her that she was the next head of the family, which only fueled her anger further. She retorted that he had no right to lecture her while draining their funds, her voice rising. In frustration as the butler attempted to intervene, ignoring her, Deculein focused on the items before him. He had initially dismissed them as mere vanity investments, but while preparing to return to Burke, he realized their true potential. His hand hovered over an ornate vase as he activated Midas Touch, a pulse of golden light rippling across its surface. Uriel, exasperated, mocked him for standing there like a fool. The butler tried to soothe her, but Deculein ignored them both, instructing the butler to summon an appraiser immediately and prepare the items for auction. Uriel protested, saying antiques needed time to appreciate in value, and that selling them now would mean losing half of what they had paid. Deculein silenced her with a firm command before turning back to the vase, now transformed. Description: a vessel forged with the essence of its creator's soul. Midas Touch has awakened its latent potential. Effects: flowers placed within never wilt. Petals regenerate. Imbued with mid to high-class fatigue recovery. What was once worth 2.5 million Elna was now priceless. As workers carefully lifted the vase, Deculein warned them to handle it with care. Uriel, now more anxious than angry, demanded to know if he was truly selling everything, if this was his way of ruining them completely. He met her gaze calmly, assuring her they would profit. Declaring he had lost his mind, she shouted in disbelief when he dismissed her concerns. Deculein checked the time and announced he had to leave for work. Uriel let out a scream of pure frustration as the door clicked shut behind him. 5 students sat around a table, cards in hand, the atmosphere thick with nervous excitement as cards slapped against wood. Ephereine triumphantly declared she had a full house, king's high, fanning her winning hand across the table. A collective groan rose from her opponents, with one student lamenting that this was her 3rd consecutive win, while another protested they'd been just 1 card away from a flush. Leaning back with satisfaction, Ephereine announced that as champion, she was officially waiving a week's cleaning duty. Her grin widened at their groans. When one defeated student started making excuses about how close they'd been, Ephereine cut them off, declaring that excuses were for losers. The group erupted in laughter. It felt like a dream, she marveled inwardly. She was just a baron's daughter who had never even attended the academy. Since entering the tower, she'd been despised by students and professors alike, enduring so many incidents. Yet now, she was in a club with friends. Her smile softened as she admitted she was really liking this ordinary magic exploration. The red-haired girl quickly corrected her in a hushed tone. They were supposed to be the ordinary magic discussion club, and reminded her to keep up appearances. Ephereine winced and apologized. The door shuddered on its hinges as Professor Ryland's bulk filled the doorway, his jowls quivering with outrage. He demanded to know what was going on. Behind him loomed Beck. Beck sneered that he had warned the professor these commoners were cluttering the tower with their pointless activities, his voice dripping with faux concern. Of course, Ephereine thought bitterly, Ryland and Beck. They turned everything about commoners into an issue. Ryland squinted at their makeshift plaque, OMDC. In the novel, it was CMRC, Common Magic Research Club, crudely carved into wood, and barked at them again to explain themselves. Ephereine closed her eyes briefly. It was unwelcome, but expected. She needed to handle this honorably, calmly. She stated that they had submitted a formal club proposal and received approval. They were an official club. Ryland spat in disbelief, demanding to know who had authorized such a farce. Then his finger jabbed toward her as recognition dawned. She was that lowlife who had been disciplined before. He accused her of being behind this again. Ephereine stiffened, again with lowlife. Her gaze sharpened, locking onto Ryland's face. Noticing her defiance, Ryland laughed mockingly and ordered her to lower her eyes. The red-haired girl tugged at Epherine's sleeve in warning. Beck chuckled, clearly enjoying the scene. Ryland smirked and challenged her. If she was so confident, she should name the professor who had approved this. No upstanding faculty member would permit such nonsense, he sneered. A shadow fell across the doorway. Epherine's breath caught. Seeing her stunned expression, Ryland shouted triumphantly. He knew it. No professor would have allowed such a club to. It was me. Ryland froze at the voice. His smirk died mid-birth as he slowly, painfully turned. Deculein stood there, his glare like a blade. The air itself seemed to thicken under his presence, settling on Ryland with the weight of a guillotine. In a lethally calm voice, Deculein stated that he had permitted it, and asked if Professor Ryland had any complaints. Ephereine could only stare, stunned.